All right, so discoveries in the eye of the beholder. I'm going to talk specifically about the next generation integrated library systems and some of the discovery tools that we're using and what we're grappling with, which is a lot of the same things that Jay and Darcy have given us. So what do we use for metadata? We use everything. We use the structural, same as everybody else, administrative for purchasing. With our integrated library systems, we are doing everything within that system. We are buying, and we are also trying to create the discovery and push it out to our end users. So we have the structural metadata that we're utilizing and that we're hoping is machine readable so that it can be machine processed as quickly as possible. We're using administrative metadata so we know how we're buying it, where the problems might lie in access. And we're using descriptive metadata to describe what it is and what it should mean to our end users. Libraries have a large impact. The recent Ithaca faculty survey that came out on the 8th of April that was performed in 2012 shows that libraries are still one of the main places faculty and students come to for resource provision. That is still seen as our main focus on campus. What's interesting to us is our repository access is growing, and we are looking at building our repositories along that line. And the other thing that we saw in this year's survey that we hadn't seen was a slight uptick in using the library portals as a mechanism for discovery. In the past years, that had been in rapid decline. So seeing this uptake gives us hope that we are doing what we need to do as librarians in creating the mechanisms to really help provide the relevant resource discovery that our faculty and students need. And one of the other things that the faculty responded to in particular was they pointed out that the library is an especially important place in finding what they refer to as sort of secondary scholarly literature, the things that they didn't really expect to discover kind of out on the open web. So what are the systems available? And Jay kind of talked about some of these. Here are the major players on the market. There's EBSCO with their EBSCO Discovery Service. There's Ex Libris, their next-gen system that libraries use to kind of do all the processing back-end work is known as ALMA, and the discovery layer is Primo. III has its own integrated product called Sierra. There's Quale Olay, which is Olay stands for Open Library Environment. This is a open source product that is being developed by the Quale Foundation, and it's being put in place primarily University of Pennsylvania, Indiana University are two of the big players that are involved in the development and rolling that one out. OCLC has their web management scale and WorldCat Local as a discovery tool. Serial Solutions is developing and is starting to beta test a product called Intoto, which is sort of the back end resource, and then Summon is the discovery layer that sits on top of that. And then VTLS, which had kind of disappeared for a while in especially the academic library marketplace, has kind of come back and is developing a product called Open Skies now. I'm not going to really go into great detail on many of these resources because you could spend pretty much a good day talking about them. I highly recommend looking at Carl Grant's blog, Thoughts from Carl Grant, who used to work for Ex Libris but went out independently and is now Chief Information Officer at one university, and I can't remember exactly which one. Oklahoma State, thank you. In October 2012, late October, he started basically formalizing and doing kind of an overview of each and every system and then kind of showing what the strengths were for all of them. So I highly recommend you go and read his blog because I think it's one of the best and most thorough kind of overview out there of all the systems in the marketplace and what they're capable of doing. So what are our advantages as librarians for these next-gen systems? For back-end processing, almost all of them are at the top standard of Onyx editor processing metadata, which is fantastic for us. That means having to do less work on the back end to actually process orders and get things into our systems and load them, that we can do these in more of a machine-readable way where we're just doing data loads as opposed to having to have somebody manually input everything, and that's fantastic for us. There's upfront what we call Ferberization, which is the, I always forget the acronym.
Functional requirements?
Yes, functional requirements for bibliographic records, thank you. Which is really drawing on the new cataloging standard coming out, Resource Description and Access, RDA. But it also is really valuable in providing crosswalks from our traditional MARC-based records into more of an XML-like parsing of bibliographic information, and I'll be showing you some examples of that. There's definitely better linking capabilities and better open URL resolution with these systems than we've had with our traditional systems. And in some ways, we're able to bring everything together as opposed to trying to piece together access and usage using multiple systems. The problem with libraries and using multiple systems is then we're usually having to maintain and keep up to date multiple knowledge bases of information. And this is extraordinarily time-consuming and difficult. So being able to do everything in one place as opposed to multiple places is an extremely helpful development for us. The referral system capabilities and tagging are like sort of the tools that are out there in social media and that are out there in many of the commercial sites that we're able to now integrate and use directly in our catalogs. So first off, I wanted to show you, this is a back-end screenshot from a tool called Get It Soon Toolkit. It is a it's an open source mechanism that was developed by an academic who is now at SUNY Geneseo. What this does is it allows libraries the ability to further enhance the interlibrary loan form, and that's what you're looking at right here. Basically, somebody's gone out, done a search, this information's loaded directly. They say, I want to get this via interlibrary loan because the library doesn't have it. In this case, my library, not held at Portland State University. And it just pulled all the data in there, and I could have just clicked, go ahead and interlibrary loan this. But I could also go out and preview this on Google and see what it looked like out there. I get the information from Amazon. It tells me what the deals are there. That tells me what the cost is from Amazon, because I might decide, you know what, $10, it's probably going to cost them $25 to interlibrary loan this. I'm just going to go ahead and buy it myself. Or I can get it from Powell's Book, which is my local bookstore in Portland. So it kind of gives you those multiple options. There's also up there, would you recommend the PSU library to add this item to our collection? And if someone clicks that drop down and says yes, what we'll do, instead of loaning the book, we will just go and buy it. Because if there's demand for it, there's demand for it. Where there's one demand, there's usually multiple demands. So it makes sense for us to just go ahead and make the purchase. So this is another way to do kind of demand-driven. This is usually performed more with print material than with electronic. So I want to walk you through a couple of screenshots. This is Boston College. They are a Primo site, and they're using Alma as their base next-gen catalog. On the left-hand side here, you see the Ferberization. You see where the record's broken down, and you can refine your search given material type, library availability, subject, so on. You can then find it at the library, click details, or you can tag it. You can say, this would be great for class X. For the tagging, you have to be affiliated in some way with Boston College and be able to log into their system to be able to do that. So that's kind of the way they sort of restrict it to their environment, so it's contextually sensitive. By clicking on one of the detail records, you'll see the links over on the left-hand side. The first link there goes out to kind of an older product that's been in the library market for some time called Syndetic Solutions, which provides very base information such as table of contents and book cover, that sort of thing. They also, the thing with Discovery Tools now is you can link out to more than one place. Most of the older systems only allowed you to link out to one thing or two things at the most. With the new Discovery systems, you're allowed multiple link outs. So in this case, they're linking out to WorldCat for further information. They're also providing link outs to Amazon. And they also have a permalink where the professor can go and just grab that permalink, put it in their course syllabus, put it into their virtual learning environment or their library management or their learning management system so that the student has ready access. So this is what the Syndetics kind of summary looks like. And then here's what it looks like on Amazon. Boston University is also using Primo, and here's an example from their website. What I like about them is I like how they've used View It and Get It. If it's available online, you can just click View It. You'll be taken out to be authenticated for access into it. Get It means it's available in print, and somebody can go and retrieve it. And again, they're also providing links, but in their case, they're providing links out to Google Books. So that'll take you out to there. So generally, this works really well for us, but every now and then, it goes a little awry. And it goes awry in part because, as we've already heard, consistency is an absolute necessity. And when consistency isn't there, you have trouble finding things, you don't see things adding up the way you should, which is sort of what you see in the picture there, which happens in iTunes all the time, where there's not consistent metadata. And so you have Radio 1 with a 1, and you have Radio 1 spelled out. And you know it's all the same thing in your mind, but the computer doesn't know that. And so it gets broken out into these discrete elements. So it's really, really key that publishers use the accepted standards that are out there, because we are really basing all of our systems on finding things on those standards. And when those standards aren't there, it really means things go awry. I really have to give a strong advocacy to avoid proprietary digital rights management and systems. And I'm going to call out Kindle on this. Kindle is extremely problematic, especially to a public institution, an institution that's required to meet the ADA requirements of our students. More and more students are coming to our campuses who have cognitive disabilities, who have visual disabilities, and who need text-to-voice recognition. And when you put your material into something like Kindle, where you have to then buy yet another version in order to get the audio of it, that does not work for us, and we can't afford it. It's just unsustainable. So you will hardly find any academic library that will do anything with Kindles, in part because of this. This has been a really big issue for us. Anything that will go directly from text to voice recognition is so much more desired to us than something where there's some sort of blockade in that. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about what I refer to as the Columbus effect. You know, Columbus set out to find a new route to Asia for trade. And along the way, he just so happened to run into North America and discover something entirely new. And we see this happening all the time with our discovery systems. And sometimes it's kind of fun. Sometimes it's a little appalling. And I'm about to show you an example that I do not mean to give any offense to anyone, but this is a recent result set that a couple of my colleagues tumbled to with one of our discovery systems. And it does use some off-color language, so I apologize up front if I offend anyone. But it is kind of somewhat amusing at the same time. So here's what happens when you search for Hobbit in the Summon widget. The second display there, I'm not sure how well you can see that. I'm not going to pronounce it. But it's something not very polite. And in actual fact, those are song lyrics It's the name of a song by a Norwegian death punk band called Turbo Negro. And so either there's someone who's working for Serial Solutions who really likes Norwegian death punk, or there are a lot of students out there searching for that, which has resulted in it showing up in our discovery mechanism. In either case, it's somewhat amusing, but also appalling to suddenly be faced with that when doing what seems to be a very harmless search for hobbits. And it's just one example of where things can kind of go awry. So that's my presentation. Thank you, and we welcome your questions.